Hello and warm regards from Next Styles team. Welcome to another episode of Daily News Analysis. Today is 18th October and let's see the news that we are going to discuss today. The first topic is about the Gorkhaland issue. The second topic is Agentic AI. The third topic is India-Sri Lanka relations because Sri Lankan Prime Minister is on a state visit to India, that is a 3-day state visit. Then the fourth topic is about the transgenders in India because Supreme Court has appointed a committee regarding the issues transgenders are facing and the implementation of the policies and the laws that have been framed. And lastly, in the decoded part, we are going to discuss about India and China, how both of them, if come together, can shape the global order. So let's start with the first topic. The first topic that we are having is Gorkhaland issue. The demand for the statehood for the Gorkhaland carved out of the hill regions of the northern Bengal and the adjoining regions. Now this Gorkhaland issue or the demand for the statehood for Gorkhaland is a century-old issue. It was first raised in 1907 to 1909. You remember, I think, about the Parliamentary reforms that came in 1909. So this particular demand for a separate identical region or separate identity region has been before the India's independence. Now, why this topic is in news? This topic is in news because interlocutor has been assigned for the resolution of Gorkhaland statehood issue. And this topic becomes important or relevant from GS paper 2 basically. Federalism, center-state relations and state reorganization. Also, this question can or this topic can be part of the society in the GS paper 1 because this particular demand for Gorkhaland is linked with the identity also of the people who are living here. Now let's see what's the news here. The news is that former NSA Mr. Pankaj Kumar has been assigned as the interlocutor to hold talks with Gorkha representatives to address their political demands including the call for a separate state. So he's going to discuss, he's going to convince them that what is feasible and what is not feasible and the demand for the state, is it possible or not? We are going to see that in the coming days. Now let's see what is this movement all about. The Gorkhaland state movement says that they are proposing a new separate state for the Nepali speaking Indians, and this region will include the hill regions of Darjeeling and Kalimpong district, then the Dwar regions of Jalpaiguri, Alipurdwar and parts of Cooch Behar district. And the proposed area will be 7,500 kilometers and the population will be around 40 lakhs. And the demographic profile, if we talk about the Gorkhaland, the proposed Gorkhaland, the demographic profile includes a majority of the Gorkhas, that is 35%. Then there are other Rajbonsis, then Adivasis, Bengalis and others, Totos, Mars and Biharis. So this is a demographic profile of the Gorkha, proposed Gorkhaland. Now if we go back in the history, where do this whole issue started from? Around 1780s, this particular area of northern Bengal was controlled by the Chogyal, the monarch of the Sikkim. Then the Gorkhas in the Nepal, they become very active, and around 1780, they captured this region and their control was extended over this Darjeeling and the adjoining regions. Now between 1814 to 1816, the Anglo-Gorkha War happened, and in these Anglo-Gorkha wars, British won over the Gorkhas, and that's why the Treaty of Sangoli was there in 1850, and according to this treaty, this particular region of Darjeeling and adjoining regions was taken out of control from the Gorkhas. Then there was a Treaty of Titalia, in which this region, the said region of Darjeeling, that was given back to Chogyal. And in 1835, a deed of grant was signed between the Chogyal ruler and the Britishers, and in that deed, the Darjeeling was handed over to the Britishers for a certain period in accordance with the lease. Then in 1864, Treaty of Sinchula was happened, and it was between Britain and Bhutan, and more areas were given to the British. Then 1866, the present Darjeeling district formed by merging Darjeeling Hills, Kalimpong and Bengal Dwars. So this is the brief history of the Darjeeling region or the proposed Gorkhaland region. Now if we go to the British era, in 1907, Hillmen Association of Darjeeling demanded a separate administrative unit. In 1941, they said that a chief commissioner's province should be carved out for the Darjeeling region because Darjeeling region is having a different set of topography, a different set of people who are living there and a different set of culture from the rest of the Bengal. In 1947, there was a demand for the Gorkhistan by the Communist Party of India. In 1952, Akhil Bharatiya Gorkha League met Prime Minister Nehru seeking the demand for the Bengal. Then in 1977 to 81, West Bengal Assembly passed a resolution supporting an autonomous district council for the Darjeeling. Now in 1980, the situation became more volatile. It was the rise of Subhash Gising. The Subhash Gising formed the Gorkha National Liberation Front. And there were protests which were violent in the nature. So there was violent Gorkhaland agitation led by this GLNF, Gorkhaland National Liberation Front. And there were 1200 deaths. And many more were affected, and a lot of public damage was also there. It ended with Darjeeling Gorkha Hill Council. Now a hill council was formed in which some kind of autonomy was given. And for this hill council, there has to be some elections or some mechanism has to be there in which this election will be done. And this hill Gorkha, Darjeeling Gorkha Hill Council Accord, it continued till a period of 2 to 2.5 decades. Now in 2004-05, no DGC elections happened, and that was a tipping point, because then Subhash Gising was appointed as the permanent chairman of this particular council. In 2007, Bimal Gurung, he now started forming Gorkhaland Jan Mukti Morcha, and he said that the inclusion of the Gorkhaland in the 6th schedule should be done. And this was promised by the government also, that Darjeeling will be included in the 6th schedule for the tribal administration. Now, after having 6th schedule in any area, there are certain privileges, that the land cannot be sold without the permission of the government. No land can be encroached without the permission of the governor or the president. So these kind of safeguards are there. After getting in 6th schedule, the safeguards would have been there in the Darjeeling region, and the local communities will be satisfied. But this was not done. Then after that, in 2011, Gorkhaland Territorial Administration was formed, and it was a semi-autonomous body replacing the DGSC. So earlier, the Darjeeling Hill Council was there. That was now replaced by Gorkhaland Territorial Administration. For the initial 5 years, the appointments were done by the West Bengal government. After that, there were elections. Now in 2013, after the creation of Telangana, again this demand for the Gorkhaland got some fuel, and there was more agitations regarding it. Then in 2017, West Bengal passed an order that the Bengali will be taught in each and every school, and that was not acceptable to the Gorkhaland people or the Darjeeling people. Again, there were violent agitations that happened in this region. Now, this was a brief history of the Gorkhaland कि कहाँ से शुरू हुआ पूरा का पूरा जो movement है, and it has been a consistent demand from this region that there should be a separate state or separate identity should be granted to them. Now, we summarize the whole demand for this Gorkhaland includes, first of all, there should be a separate state. Secondly, the scheduled tribe status should be given to 11 Gorkha sub-tribes. So basically, it is about the Gorkha identity. Now, what are the reasons for the demand for the separate Gorkhaland state? Why they want to have a new state? Why not be with Bengal only? The first and foremost reason is the cultural and ethical identity. The Gorkhaland region, it is having a majority of Nepali-speaking Indian citizens, which have a distinct language, dress, and tradition. So traditionally, culturally, they are different from West Bengal. But that is in most of the states of India, because most of the states of India, after every few kilometers, there is a change in the culture. There is a change in the culture. There is a change in the dressing style. So this is all over the India, because India is a very, very diverse country. Now, second reason is political recognition and self-respect, because many a time the people coming from this region, they are being labeled as Nepalis. So that is something which is not very much acceptable to the Gorkha people, because Gorkha people says that we are part of the India, we are Indian citizens, we are the integral part of India, and labeling us as Nepalis actually demeans our identity, demeans our respect. So it is a movement for the self-respect also. If they are having a separate state, they will be having the identity based upon that state. because whenever a person from West Bengal comes, we usually denote, or it is usually denoted in society as Bengalis. But people coming from Darjeeling, they are not identified as Bengalis, because they are being identified as Nepalis, because they are Gorkhas. So this Gorkha identity is now linked with Nepal, but Gorkhas are in India also. They are part of India, they are the Indian citizens also. So that's why they are demanding that this giving the statehood status will give them a political recognition all over the country and is important for their self-respect. This will help in more integration of them in the India. Then third is economic neglect and poor governance, because this region more or less is away from the Calcutta, and most of the development, most of the focus of the government is on this in the southern part, not in the northern part. This region is already hilly region, so there is not much development that is being happening in this region. So there is a regional disparity also in the Darjeeling region. Then political mobilization and history is one of the reasons, because from the start itself they have maintained that they have a separate identity, starting from the British rule, then after independence, and after just after independence, and in the later period in the 21st century also, they have always maintained a status that we are having a different identity and we need to be having a different state. So that's why this political mobilization and history is one of the reasons that this movement is continuing. Then regional and strategic importance. It is important for the country also, because the Gorkhaland region, it is having a very important corridor known as Siliguri corridor, that is known as chicken neck of India. Now having a political instability in this region is also harmful for India's security, India's sovereignty. We need this region to be very much peaceful, so that law and order can be maintained and the local population is very much included or is focused upon the country's integration. So that's why we need a separate, either a separate state or a local administration representation and national integration in this region, so that this region identifies, or this region is not following or pursuing this particular demand. Now, if we create a new state, what is going to happen? What are the going to positives and what are going to be the negatives? See, we have created few states after the State Recognition Commission also. Earlier it was in 1956, then in 1961, then in 2000 also we have the 3 states. In 2014 also we had the Telangana state. Now, whenever a new state is being created, a demand for new state, more demand for new states comes up. For example, Bodoland is a region in the Assam which is demanding a separate state. Then Kurg is also demanding a separate state. Vidarbh is also demanding a separate state. So accepting a separate state demand is going to have repercussions for the other regions also. There will be a propagation of more demand for the separate state. So one of the fallout of granting a separate state status to Gorkhaland will be that more states will be demanding the same things. There are some genuine reasons also, there are political reasons also. So genuine reasons should be addressed and political reasons should be avoided. Then secondly, another negative fallout will be that because this movement has been consistently violent. So if this demand is being accepted, then it will motivate the other regions that the only way to get the demands accepted by the government is through the violence. So that is not good for India's internal security. So it will legitimize violence as a means to get the demands accepted by the government. So that will be another fallout. Now, what are going to be the positives? Positives are also that there will be a stable and responsible government in Darjeeling, which will be working for the development of the Darjeeling. So the regional disparity this region is facing, that they will be able to overcome that. Then there will be regional stability also, and that is also for India's good, because this is a region which is strategic for India, which is a point that is having a very narrow corridor of only 18 kilometers. So this region need to be stable. So that is good for India also. But however, we should be cautious while we moving towards this demand for statehood. Any particular demand for statehood should be met with the principles that have been already established through the State Reorganization Commission. Now lastly, what can be the possible way outs? The possible way out is that, first of all, focusing upon the development of the region. The second is that this Gorkhaland region should be given more autonomy, more representation, and a genuine representation should be given. a genuine voices of the people should be heard. So that is one thing. Second is that we can have a same formula like the Article 244A. 244A article is regarding the autonomous region in Assam. So the Bodoland territorial region, that is the autonomous region within Assam. So such kind of things can be done in which the area will be part of the state government only, but it will be governed by the local traditions and customs and by the local people only. So with this topic is complete, and now you have to attempt this MCQ and you have to post your answers in the comment box. And we now move to the second topic. The second topic is Agentic AI. Now, in the context is that Agentic AI is now developing fast, and in this context, we need to analyze what is Agentic AI, what can be the benefits of it, and what concerns are there related to Agentic AI. Now, this topic is relevant from GS paper 3, that is awareness in the field of IT. And artificial intelligence is a very, very hot topic, and the new developments are coming on daily basis. Now, based upon that, there has been a talk by the Wipro Global Head, Advisory Services and Cybersecurity and Risk Services. He said that for India, while where digital public infrastructure and AI-driven innovation are becoming central to economic growth, Agentic AI is a massive opportunity as well as potential liability, said Saugat Sidhu. So we need to look out that this AI, Agentic AI, which is a massive opportunity as well as a potential liability, how we are going to deal with that. He also said that security, privacy, and ethical oversight must evolve at the same pace or must evolve faster than the AI itself is evolving. So these three things are very, very important for us. Now, in this context, what is Agentic AI? Now, Agentic AI or Agentic artificial intelligence refers to the artificial intelligence system that can take autonomous actions to achieve specific goals, often with minimal human intervention. So that means they are capable of themselves taking up any kind of goal or any kind of activity, and they can continue with that activity. How it is different from traditional AI? Because we are having ChatGPT and others. Now, ChatGPT and traditional AIs, they actually work on the prompts. Whatever commands we give them, they answer or they perform that task according to our commands. But this Agentic AI will perform the function on its own. That means it is going to replace the human intelligence itself. So it is a one step forward than the traditional AI. Now, what are the key features here? First one is autonomy. It can make decisions and perform tasks without needing constant human commands. So there is no need for human commands on constant basis. You just tell them that I want this, I am going there, and it is going to itself see what are the flights that are available, what is the prices at which they are available, what are the timings of those flights, and it is going to book those flights by itself. And also it is going to give you the reminders for that. So there's a sense of autonomy there. It doesn't need the human commands. It can act upon its own. Second is goal-oriented behavior. It will work towards a specific objective. For example, increasing sales, managing energy systems, or coding an app. So it needs a goal and it is going to pursue that goal. Third one is reasoning and planning. It will use the large models like ChatGPT plus additional reasoning tools to break down complex goals into subtasks. So it can actually assign tasks. It can ensure that a task is being completed by dividing the task into subtasks. So in a way, it is now competing with the human intelligence. Then we have tool and economic interactions, environmental interactions. It can access the internet, API, database to execute action, not just generate the text. Then continuous learning in advanced forms. It adapts from feedback or the environmental changes over the time. So these are the key features of the Agentic AI. First one is autonomy. Then second one is goal-oriented behavior. Autonomy means that it can take the decision by itself. Goal-oriented behavior means that it will pursue a specific objective. Then third one is reasoning and planning. It can reason, it can plan, it can assign subtasks. Then tool used for environmental interaction. So it will use the internet and other chat GPTs or any other AI to actually enhance or execute the actions rather than just generating the text. Then last one is continuous learning. So it will be performing continuous learning. It will be learning from the previous task and it will be performing the new task. Now, if we see the examples in which agentic AI has some kind of application, the first one is AI project management. For example, it can assign track tasks among the team members automatically. Trading agents, it can execute buy sell decisions in financial market based upon the data patterns. Then AI personal assistant can book flights, manage emails, or draft reports proactively. And autonomous robots navigate, manipulate objects, and make decisions in the real world settings. Now, if we use these examples and see how the traditional AI would be doing these things and how this agentic AI will be doing these things, let's see that also. First one is AI project manager. Now, if a traditional AI is being used, what is it is going to do? It is going to suggest the task priorities or generate a to-do list. कि आप ये कर सकते हो. Whereas agentic AI, what it is going to do? It is going to assign, track, and update the task among the team members. So instead of just giving you what you have to do, it will itself do that thing. It will send the reminders and adjust deadlines based upon the project progress. So in the real time, it is actually analyzing what is being done, and according to that, it is now taking up new decisions. So traditional AI is working upon what we ask it to say. The agentic AI is working upon how it is analyzing. It has autonomy to take the decisions. Then traditional agents, it provide market predictions or analysis for the human traders. So it is basically giving the predictions on which the human are going to act. Whereas agentic AI, वो देखेगा कि this particular stock or this particular commodity is rising up, what is the trend there, and according to that trend, it is going to take the decision to buy or sell that particular stock or security. So that is a way step ahead, because we would be in the traditional AI, we would be taking the inputs from the AI, and then we are going to execute those things. This agentic AI is going to do it by itself. Then AI personal assist, it will respond to user commands like book a flight or draft the email. Whereas this agentic AI is going to proactively manage the schedule, identify the travel needs, book the tickets, draft reports, and handle emails without explicit instructions. Then last is autonomous robots. It will perform the pre-programmed movement to follow a fixed routine in the traditional AI. Whereas in the agentic AI, it is going to sense, plan, and act dynamically, navigating obstacles, making real-time decisions, and adapting to the changing environment independently. So it is more or less a competition to the human race. Now, if we summarize all these things, then the traditional AI and the agentic AI are different in this manner. First is nature. Traditional AI is reactive, whereas agentic AI is proactive. Control. The traditional AI is human-driven. Agentic AI is self-driven. It is autonomous. Then learning. The limited or static learning is in tradition, whereas in agentic it is adaptive and context aware. It is now getting aware to the context. Then goal execution. Traditional AI needs explicit input that you have to do this thing. Agentic AI, it is going to define the objectives by itself and is going to perform those objectives. So it is going to take the decision by itself. Now, based upon the discussion, you have to attempt this MCQ and you have to post your answers in the comment box. And let's move to the third topic. The third topic is India-Sri Lanka relations, and the context here is that there is a state visit of the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka to India, and she is on a 3-day visit to India. The relevance is GS paper 2, India and neighborhood relations. Now, what is the news here? The news is that Sri Lankan Prime Minister Harini Amarsurya, who is on a 3-day visit to India, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday and discussed wide range of issues including education, technology, women empowerment, innovation, development cooperation, and welfare of the fishermen. Now, this is the basic visit. Indian Prime Minister has also visited Sri Lanka a few months back, and now there is a visit from the corresponding visit from the Sri Lankan Prime Minister to India. Now, we have to analyze that India and Sri Lanka, how has been their relations, why India and why Sri Lanka are important to each other because both are neighbors. Thirdly, what are the concerns or what are the challenges in the relations. So, this is the basic premise of this whole article. The first thing is that India-Sri Lanka relations. So, India is a major source of FDI to the Sri Lanka because a lot of Indians invest in Sri Lanka. So, India is one of the major sources of FDI in Sri Lanka. So, India is a major investment source for Sri Lanka. Secondly, a lot of tourists go to Sri Lanka from Indian side. So, India contributes in the term of tourism also. India and Sri Lanka have signed a free trade agreement in 1998. So almost, or it is around 27 years since this trade agreement has been signed. Now, FDI India is a key contributor to Sri Lanka. We have already discussed it. Till to 2023, a total of $2.25 billion of investment India has done in Sri Lanka. 2024, 1/5 of tourists were from India only, who were going to Sri Lanka. Then Sri Lanka adoption of India's UPI and use of Indian rupee for trade settlement. It has also integrated both countries, and it has also boosted the fintech connectivity in Sri Lanka. India's UPI is being used by many countries, and Sri Lanka is one of the countries. India extended grants and concessional loans, key infrastructure and digital projects to Sri Lanka. Then, for example, Kankesh Thurai Port, digital ID, India is helping Sri Lanka. Then India has extended over to $7 billion in credit and $780 million in grants to Sri Lanka. And this was granted in the context that Sri Lanka was facing the economic crisis a few years back. And also Sri Lanka is prone to natural disasters. So in that case also, India helps out, or India is the first responder to Sri Lanka's needs regarding any kind of disaster that happens. During 2022 crisis, $4 billion was given in aid to Sri Lanka by India. India has supported Sri Lanka in COVID-19 pandemic because India's vaccine was one of the vaccine which was distributed all over the world. So our vaccine diplomacy has also been implemented in Sri Lanka. India has helped Sri Lanka in terms of the COVID-19 vaccine in fighting COVID. Then, if we talk about defense and security relations, the key bilateral exercises that are being conducted between the two countries like Slynex and Mitra Shakti, these both are important. Slynex is from the Navy part, and Mitra Shakti is the Army. Both armies actually exercise that exercise is known as Mitra Shakti. Now these exercises are relevant, or these are very, very important because India and Sri Lanka both faces the challenges in the Indian Ocean in terms of piracy is there, in terms of natural disasters are there, or in terms of any other needs in the oceans as well as on the land. Then India acts as the first responder. We have already discussed that. Then cultural and civilization ties. India and Sri Lanka from the time immemorial has been neighbors, and many a times it has been controlled by the same rulers. Secondly, Buddhism is the main or is the major religion in Sri Lanka, and India, the Buddhism has risen from India only. So India and Sri Lanka have developed Buddhist and Ramayana circles in the respective countries to boost the tourism as well as the cultural ties. India has supports temple restoration and religious tourism under the cultural diplomacy efforts. Then Indian community. Sri Lanka hosts around 10,000 people of Indian origin, and about 1.6 million Indian origin Tamils are living in Sri Lanka only. Then, why Sri Lanka is important for India? Sri Lanka is important first of all from the strategic point of view, because Sri Lanka is closest to India in terms of the maritime neighbors, and if this maritime neighbor is alliance with any of our enemy nations or any of our competitors like China or USA, then there will be presence of new powers in the Indian Ocean. So it becomes important for India also to take care of Sri Lanka so that it does not align with these countries. And it has happened in past also, when Sri Lanka has taken help of China, although after taking help from China, it has faced the repercussions. Then Sri Lanka is the central place in India's neighborhood first policy and the Mahasagar vision that India has. Sri Lanka has supported India's candidature for the non-permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council for the year 2028-29. Then it is an active member of the regional platforms like BIMSTEC or Indian Ocean Rim. So your neighbor should be is the one who should always be your friend, and it always helps you. The next is, what are the irritants in India-Sri Lanka relations? The first and foremost irritant is China, because China has developed certain ports like Hambantota in Sri Lanka and has got a 99-year lease also. And there has been instances when the Sri Lankan military submarines have visited these ports. So that is an area of concern for India, because it amounts for the encirclement of India in the Indian Ocean. So that is one of the irritants which India is concerned about. Secondly, fishermen dispute and Kachativu Island. Kachativu Islands were given to Sri Lanka according to the agreement India and Sri Lanka had, and this Kachativu Island has become a bone of contention, because by control over Kachchatevu Island, the maritime boundary actually increases of Sri Lanka. And when the maritime boundary increases, then there are conflicts between the fishermen. Many times, Indian fishermen cross over to the Sri Lankan boundary and are being detained by Sri Lanka. And as Indian fishermen are having better technologies, that's why the Sri Lankan fishermen also face the brunt, because they are not able to capture enough fishes from this region. So that fisherman issue and Kachchatevu issue is one of the important issues or bone of contention between India and Sri Lanka. There are repeated arrests of the fishermen by the Sri Lankan army for the alleged boundary violations. Then Tamil Ethnic and 13th Amendment. After the internal wars that happened in Sri Lanka, the 13th Amendment was enacted. And the enforcement of 13th Amendment is still pending. It has not been done in a proper manner. And there has been a consistent demand from Indian side that the 13th Amendment should be implemented in a proper manner. The Indian-Sri Lankan Accord, which led to the 13th Amendment, should be properly implemented in Sri Lanka to ensure that the minority group of Tamilians who are living in Sri Lanka are given their due rights. Then domestic politics sensitivities, because Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka both have Tamil population, and the kind of atrocities that have been over the Tamilian population of Sri Lanka, that has been also infugating our own domestic politics. So that is one more issue, that Indian policy towards Sri Lanka is influenced by the Tamil Nadu's stand. Then lastly, the recent developments, how the growth has been between the two relations. First of all, recently we have seen there is a visit by the Prime Minister of India to Sri Lanka, and by the Sri Lankan Prime Minister that is happening now to India. Next is that India and Sri Lanka have signed a comprehensive MOU on defense cooperation, consolidating existing understandings into the structural framework. Then Sri Lanka has reaffirmed that its territory will not be used against India. So it has ensured India that the Hambantota port or any other port which is or which can be under foreign, which can be developed with the foreign collaboration, will not be used against India's interest. So that has been reaffirmed, and that's a good thing for India. Then India, Sri Lanka and UAE have agreed to develop energy hub in Trincomalee. That is important thing, because now Sri Lanka is being integrated in the energy networks. Then both countries signed MOU on cooperation in the field of sharing successful digital solutions implemented at population scale for the digital transformation. India is helping in the infrastructure development, whether it is physical infrastructure or digital infrastructure. Then India announced support for Sri Lanka's unique digital identity project. Then also India has granted assistance for the development of temples like Temple Tirkoneshwaram Temple in Trincomalee, Sita Ahilya Temple in Nuvara Ilya, and Sacred City Complex project in Anuradhapura. So these things also India is investing in Sri Lanka. Now, based upon the discussion, you have to attempt this MCQ and you have to put your answers in the comment box. And let's move to the fourth topic. The fourth topic we are having is transgenders in India. Now, this topic is relevant or in news because Supreme Court has formed a panel to draft the equal opportunity policy for transgender persons. Because Supreme Court has seen that the act that was enacted for the betterment of transgenders in 2019 is not being implemented in proper manner. So that's why Supreme Court has taken a suo motu cognizance and said that an inquiry and a policy will be framed, and the committee has been appointed by Supreme Court itself. Now, relevance, welfare scheme for vulnerable sections of the population by the center and state, and performance of these schemes. Secondly, mechanism, law, institutions and bodies constituted for protection and betterment of these vulnerable sections. In this context, this issue can be discussed. Also, GS paper 1 society part, this particular topic can be included there also. Now, let's see the news. The news is that observing that the center and state have displayed a grossly apathetic aptitude, this is said by Supreme Court, towards integrating transgender persons into mainstream, the Supreme Court on Friday constituted a committee headed by former Delhi High Court Judge Asha Menon to formulate a national policy, equal opportunity policy for transgender individuals. This particular committee will be headed by Justice Menon, and other members are like Akai Padmashali, then Grace Bhanu, Vajanti Vasant Mogli, then we have Saurav Mandal, Nithya Rajshekhar and Air Commodore retired Dr. Sanjay Sharma. and amicus curiae will be Gianna Kothari. So this committee has been formed, and the context is there here that the Supreme Court has observed that there has been an apathetic attitude by the state and the central governments regarding the welfare for the transgenders. Now let's see what's the legal provision we have and how we define the transgenders. So according to the Act of Transgender Act of 2019, in India, or legally, transgender person is defined as one whose gender does not match the gender assigned at the birth. Now it includes trans men and trans women, persons with intersex variation, then gender queers, and persons with socio-cultural identities like Kinnar and Hijra. What do we mean by intersex variation? It means that a person who at birth shows variation in his or her primary sexual characteristics, external genitalia, chromosomes and hormones from the normative standard of male or female body. That means they are having different behaviors. That's why they are considered as transgenders. And the recognition of the third gender or the transgender was a landmark judgment given by Supreme Court. This judgment was given in the National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India case of 2014. It recognized transgender people as third gender, affirmed their right to self-identity and their gender. Because this particular group was facing problems with respect to identity itself. It was an identity crisis, because any government form that you fill, any kind of forms that are being filled, any kind of identity card that are being issued, they were classifying in two manners. One is male, one is female. So what about the persons who are having a distinct identity? So for that, this NALSA NLSA versus Union of India case was very, very important. Then another case was there, Nalsar University versus Union of India 2022 case was there. It emphasized protection from discrimination in employment, education and healthcare. Because once your identity is not established, these things, employment, education, health, everything is going to be affected. Even the government schemes that are there, you are not going to get the welfare, you are not going to get the benefit of those schemes. So in this context, it becomes very important to first of all identify, give them an identity, give them self-respect. Then you ensure that these things, employment, education and healthcare, these things are reaching to this group as well. Then legal provisions, Article 14 and Article 21 says about that there is a guarantee for equality and right to life. But with this, we enacted Transgender Persons Protection of Right Act in 2019. That means it was explicitly presented, explicitly identified. Now, while this act was being enacted, the discussions in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, many member of parliaments have recognized, many member of parliaments have addressed this issue, that this should have been done much before that happened in 2019. It should have been done just after the independence. So they have apologized also to the community that the parliament was not able to address their concerns for such a long period of time. Now this particular act says that the discrimination against transgender must be prohibited in education, employment and healthcare. That means they have the right for education, healthcare and employment. Then it recognizes the self-identification of gender, although there has to be some documentation. Then it provides for issuance of the transgender identity certificate. Supreme Court has also said that there should be some kind of reservation, or there should be some kind of special consideration for the transgender groups, but that has not been done yet. Now next is what are the other measures that have been done. Now under this particular act, the Transgender Persons Protection of Right rules were formulated, and these rules have identified the transgender identity and prohibits discrimination in education, employment, healthcare, holding or disposing property, holding public or private office, or access to public service and benefits. It actually means that it is giving the tooth to the act. Then National Portal for Transgender Person was also formed. It was formed under these 2020 rules. It enables the digital application for certificate and identity card nationwide, eliminating physical interaction with the officials. Also, it helps in tracking the application status, rejection and grievance redressal, ensuring transparency. Then based upon this, the Garima Grah or shelter homes were created in 2020. This particular scheme was launched by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It provides for shelter, food, clothing, recreation, skill development, yoga, physical fitness, library, legal support and gender transition guidance. So in this way, this particular shelter home is going to help. That is Garima Grah. It supports employment and capacity building for trans-friendly organizations, and it also rehabilitates a minimum of 25 genders in particular. A particular home, a particular transgender shelter home is going to accommodate 25 transgender persons. So that is the capacity, and the homes can be multiple. 13 shelter homes to be set up across 10 cities. Then if we talk about Indian prisons, in January 2022, Ministry of Home Affairs advised the states and UT prison heads to ensure privacy and dignity of the third gender inmates, because it was recognized that these inmates were being treated in an inhuman manner. So that's why the Home Ministry has taken this step. Then NCRB data of 2020 says that 70 transgender persons in jails are nationwide. Then Prisons Act of 1894, it does not recognize sexual minorities based on SOGI. So we need something, or we need a new act so that this particular lacuna can be filled. Now, what are the problems or challenges that the transgenders are facing? First of all, social stigma, discrimination and exclusion from the mainstream society. That's why they are being denied the rights of education, employment or healthcare. Then limited access to education, healthcare and employment opportunities because of this social stigma only. Then there is violence, harassment and lack of social security measure also, because they are now being excluded. They are not being treated as a part of the society itself. So that's a gross inhuman error that we are doing. So it actually culminates into violence, harassment and lack of social security measures. No one is there to hurt their grievances. Then they have a difficulty in obtaining the identity documents reflecting their gender identity. Now for that we have the portal, but the working of the portal is still under observation, that how well it is working. Now based upon the discussion, you have to attempt this MCQ and you have to post your answers in the comment box, and let's move to the next topic. Now the last topic, that is the decoded part. In this we have the topic India China for better global governance, or India China, how they can shape the global order. Now why this topic is there, why this article is there? This article first of all is written by Kinji, and he is the Consul General of People's Republic of China, who is based in Mumbai right now. Now in this context this article has been written. The context is that US has forced countries like India and China to come together at one platform and work together. Now in this context, this particular article shows that China is inclined towards working with India. China is inclined that they need to counter the global order, but we have to be cautious, because the way China works, it has no permanent friends, and the experience India had previously also shows that India cannot rely upon China. But still, we need to see that if India and China come together, how their strengths complement each other, and how the complemented strength can take over or can take head on the Western powers, the Western influence global order. Because whatever structures, global structures we see, United Nations, WTO or IMF or World Bank, they are all dominated by the ideologies of the Western countries. They are all dominated by the interest of the Western countries, in which the developing countries like India or China, or for instance African countries which are least developed countries, they actually are at the receiving end. Because many a times we have seen that those countries have got loan which were not supposed to get that. Those countries have got financial aid which were not supposed to get the aid. Or in many instances we have seen that the United Nations and the United Nations Security Council have taken a stand which was against, or which was not conducive for the United Nations Charter. So in this context, we need to see that how global order should be shaped, and what role India and China can play in that particular order. And in the present situation in which India and China are looking at each other, that they should be working together to counter the threats, the problem, the challenges that the US has put before the world. Now let's see in this context what is this article all about. First of all, before going through the article, one thing that we need to take care of, that this particular article has been written by a Chinese council, and this shows that they want to engage with India in a constructive manner. But India need to be cautious, because we have seen previously also that China and India, whenever they have come together, Now, India, if it has trusted blindly on China, that would not have been good for India. So we all need to take a cautious approach while dealing with China or while working with China. So let's see the article. First of all, the news. Now, this 2025 is going to mark the 75th anniversary of the diplomatic ties from China and India. This is the line directly taken from the article itself. So, since April 1951, exchanges between the two countries have come a long way, in which heads of the state diplomacy played a key role in enhancing the mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual complementarity. So, this is basically the author is saying these things. Now, one thing that we can take from here is that since 2014 till 2025, there have been total 18 meetings between the heads of the two states, or between the President Xi and the Prime Minister Modi. Now, United Nations, something about it has also been written. In 2025, it is going to celebrate the 80th anniversary. And the way the UN has worked, we have to see that, because it has been full of various kind of decisions which are on both sides, which are appreciable, some which need criticism, because UN has also worked in a manner in which it has aligned with the Western countries, and in many instances the aggressive steps taken by the Western countries have not been taken or not been countered by UN. So this United Nations, which was founded post World War II to ensure global peace and development, has not fully delivered on its part, because currently we are seeing Russia-Ukraine war or Israel-Palestine war are going on, and there are other conflicts that are going on, and in which UN is found to be incapable of resolving those particular issues. Has historically contributed to world governance but faces challenges in 21st century, volatility, uncertainty, and conflicts. And the world today is facing the problems like unilateralism, led by USA, which USA thinks that it can actually dominate anything, it can actually boss upon anything, it can give directions to any countries, and in which India and China both have shown that they are not going to budge down to their dictates. Then protectionism, isolationism, separatism, then terrorism, extremism, hegemonism. So all these challenges the world is facing, and in this context, what India and China can do if they come together. Now let's see. From the economic and governance point of view, the strength of India are IT, service, digital economy, democratic institutions. Whereas China is good at manufacturing, infrastructure, investment, capital mobilization. So if both things are being clubbed, then both can drive an inclusive economic growth for developing countries. India is inclined towards it, but what we don't know about China. Promote fair trade rules. India is inclined towards this, because China itself is not following the open, the flexible currency system. It is following a managed currency system or a fixed currency system. Then regional connectivity, financial mechanisms, strengthen South-South cooperation, reduce dependence on West-dominated financial systems. So if with a clear intention, India and China collaborate, they can do these things in the economic sphere. In the terms of geopolitical and strategic sphere, if we talk about maritime influence in the Indian Ocean, the strength of India is there. Then democratic voice India has, because India's voice is being heard by the countries in a very positive manner. For China, it has continental and global reach, mobilization of resources and infrastructure. It has those things, because China is building that this Silk Route, both maritime as well as road Silk Route. Then if these two strengths are clubbed together, it can stabilize Asia and Indo-Pacific. It can influence conflict resolution and security frameworks. It can promote multipolarity, balancing the unipolar dominance of Western countries, particularly USA. And it can ensure sovereignty of the smaller nations. But again, the point is that when the intention is clear, then military and security, naval strength, counterterrorism, regional security coordination. The China is having advanced missiles, but that is somewhere controversial. Strategic deterrence, large-scale defense manufacturing. Then, what is the impact on global governance? It can strengthen peacekeeping, humanitarian assistance, and disaster response, contribute to rule-based security framework for global commerce. So these things need to be seen. Then we have human and capital approach. India is having a young workforce, IT research, innovation capabilities are with India. India is having a good talent. Then China is having a skilled labor, engineering expertise, and technological leadership. If both are clubbed, then they can develop knowledge-driven global solutions on climate, health, AI, governance, these things. Lead capacity building initiatives in developing countries promoting equitable development. Then multilateral and diplomatic strength what India is having. Advocacy for democracy, that is India's positive point. Human rights, developing nations representation, these all are strengths of the India. For China, resource mobilization because it is having a lot of resources. Global infrastructure support it can provide, and these things can help in reinforcing the US-centered multilateralism. Push reforms in the global institutions to reflect 21st century realities. So this can be helpful for India also. Promote GGI principles, sovereignty, rule of law, multilateralism, people-centric approach, and real results can be obtained through this. Then cultural and soft power, India's again democracy, culture, media, diaspora networks. They are the strength. For China, cultural diplomacy is not of much value. Then historical heritage, global media presence it is having. Then it can strengthen people-to-people diplomacy, build trust in the multilateral institutions, and enhance cultural legitimacy of governance mechanism in the wider acceptance. So this part is again depends upon how much China wants to engage in a proper manner without any ill intentions. Then technological and digital one. IT services, India is having capabilities, digital identity systems. There, for example, UPI India has built or UIDI India has built. Then e-governance system that India is working upon. Now for China, it has gone for smart cities, AI, fintechs, green technologies. Both of these can be clubbed to form or to solve the problems of SDGs through technology-driven solutions. Then enable digital global governance frameworks in transparency, inclusion, and efficiency. So if the strength of both the countries are combined, they can actually prove to be helpful in resolving the global concerns. Now, China's president, Mrs. Ai, has given certain principles on which the further global governance structures can be formed. So he has proposed a global governance initiative that is by China. There are basically 5 principles. The principle says that first one is sovereign equality. The country's sovereignty, its dignity and domestic affairs should be respected. No interference should be done in the domestic affairs of any country. Developmental choices are of countries only. They should not be forcing of democracy or capitalism, or they should not be forcing of socialism or communism in any other country. It's up to the nation that what model of economy or society it wants to follow. So the domestic affairs should not be touched upon for any country. Then international rule of law. Uphold UN Charter, apply all laws equally, no double standards. The double standards of UN have been exposed. In terms of Africa, the UN is very strict. In terms of Western countries like Europe and America, the UN stance becomes very, very soft. So these things should not be there. The rules should be applied equitably. There should not be any double standards. That is the appropriate one. Then multilateralism, the decision should not be unilateral. For example, currently happening in the economic sphere when US is trying to dictate the terms to other countries. Decisions, governance system and benefits should be shared by all. So there should be equitable sharing. Strengthen UN's central role in that. So multilateralism, UN can play a very, very important role. Then people-centric approach should be there. Focus on well-being of the global citizens, accelerate common developments and safety and shared interest. Then real results. The focus should be on real results, not on the paper-centric results. Solve real-world problems which are happening in the world and they should be solved in a practical manner. Developed countries provide resources. Developing countries, the developed countries should provide resources because they are having resources on a historical manner. And the developing countries should contribute so that they can, both the developing and developed countries can solve these global problems. And the basic example is climate change. So there should be contribution from the developed countries and there should be efforts from the developing countries, which will be able to solve the problems that we are facing in the world today. Then next is that China already is working upon reshaping the global order. So India should be concerned about it. Step by step, China has taken certain measures in which its presence in the global order has increased and it has tried to shape the global order. For example, AIB, Asia Investment Bank, then we have New Development Bank, then we have SCO, then we have BRICS Plus. So it is developing new multilateral institutions in financial as well as in geopolitical terms. Then alternative financial mechanisms it is developing. For example, RMB, renminbi internationalization it has started. CIPS it has developed. Then global infrastructure networks it is developing. For example, BRI or offshore SEZ. BRI is your Belt and Road Initiative under Silk Route. Also, maritime route is being developed. It is developing port infrastructure also at the world level so that it can ensure the global sea routes. Digital and technological governance it is working upon. Digital Silk Road, AI, 5G standards it is developing. So, in this manner, China is already working upon a new global order in which China will be the centric part. And in this centric part, it needs the help of other countries like India. So India has to be cautious that China is already taking these steps. So when India is collaborating with China, it should ensure that its interests are not being undermined. The next is India. So India-China relations are a mix of cooperation and competition that has been a tradition since our independence, 1962 war, for instance. So India and China's inclination or all-weather friendship with Pakistan. So there are some certain issues which are going to be there, and those issues are having very deep historical roots since our independence, and they don't seem to be resolved in a near future. Then concerns include border disputes, strategic encirclement, the string of pearls that China is developing. Then trade imbalance, technology dependence, and geopolitical influence. So for India, the approach should be engage but hedge. You should engage, you should take on USA, but you should also hedge. You should also take precautions. Engage China on cooperation areas, but hedge through strong defense, strategic partnership, and economic self-reliance and regional influence. So this approach India should be taking. Now with this, we conclude for the day. This is the main question for you that you can attempt. And tomorrow is Diwali, so happy Diwali for everyone. Thank you very much.